I'm filming on my phone, so I don't know what time it is. But I'm pretty sure it's like 3 in the morning, so hopefully I don't wake y'all up. But I cannot fall asleep. And I was watching like this one YouTuber, like I was going through like a thing of oh, sent a live notification. Um yeah, I'll let this record hopefully, but I was watching this one YouTuber. She's like an older YouTuber. She like came out in like the early 2000s maybe. I know she was around 2013. Anyways, 8 years ago she was filming and she hasn't filmed since, but she was doing like these book reviews and stuff. And I thought they were really cool and it got me inspired to want to read at this time of night. A little ad. Let's see. Hold on. Put on some little vibes in the background with my iPad. But yeah, I've always been trying to read Stephen King's Carrie. I've never been able to finish it, and I hope that by going live, it'll inspire me to finish or even start it. So I'm hoping to do live streams where I finally finish this book. So let's start Stephen King's Carrie. Now, this Carrie is my favorite Carrie. Stephen King said that I think the 1976 version of Carrie, hello one person, good morning or good night, I don't know what time it is. I'm gonna be reading Stephen King's Carrie. Can't fall asleep, so yeah. Good night. um, but yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Stephen King said I think the 1976 version was like the most accurate version of Carrie. So yeah. Yeah, I'm still kind of tired. Like I'm kind of tired and kind of not tired. And like I'm a little bit stressed because I have a dog sitting thing tomorrow, and I'm also gonna be picking like some shelves tomorrow, and it's just I don't know. It's going on my mind, and hopefully this book will take it off me. But anyways, Stephen King, Carrie. This is for Tabby, who got me into it and then bailed me out of it. Who's Tabby? Who's Tabby? Okay. My legs falling asleep. It's one of the downfalls of having to sit cross-legged all the time. Okay. Part 1. Bloodsport. We'll see how long I go. I'll try to go for a chapter, but if I need to stop, I'll stop because I really do need to wake up early. Okay. News item found from the Westover Weekly Enterprise, August 19th, 1996. Rain of stones reported. It was reliably reported by several persons that a rain of stones fell from a clear blue sky on Carolyn Street in the town of Chamberlain on August 17th. The stones fell principally on the home of Miss Margaret White, damaging the roof extensively and ruining 2 gutters and a downspout valued at approximately $25. It's pretty good. $25? Miss White, a widow, who lives with her 3-year-old daughter, Carrietta. Miss White could not be reached for comment. Nobody will. So, when I first read this book, I was so fucking confused. Like, what the fuck is this? But there'll be like a lot of like news clippings spread out within the book where it goes from news report to like what's actually going on in the present, but it's like kind of like the past, you know? If you've seen Carrie, it'll make sense, but yeah. Okay. Nobody was really surprised when it happened. Not really. Not at the subconscious level where savage things grow. On the surface, all the girls in the shower room were shocked, thrilled, ashamed, or simply glad that the white bitch had taken it in the mouth again. Some of them might also have claimed surprise, but of course their claim was untrue. Carrie had been going to school with some of them since the first grade, and it had been building since that time, building slowly and immutably, in accordance with all the laws that govern human nature, building with all the steadiness of chain reaction approaching critical mass. What none of them knew, of course, was that Carrie White was telekinetic. I always wanted to be telekinetic. I always thought that if I tried hard enough, I could. I think that's why I like 11 so much in Stranger Things. Like, I wish I could do that. I need to rewatch that. I watched it, or if y'all saw my old videos, I talked about how I hated it at first because like I didn't really pay attention to it. But then once I started paying attention to it, I actually really liked it, and then I become like super obsessed with like Stranger Things. But yeah, anyways, okay, let me reread that line. What none of them knew, of course, was that Carrie White was telekinetic. Graffiti scratched on a desk of the Baker Street Grammar School in Chamberlain. Carrie White eats shit. The locker room was filled with shouts, echoes, and the subterranean sound of showers splashing on the tile. The girls had been playing volleyball in period 1, and their morning sweat was light and eager. Girls stretched and withered under the hot water, squalling, flickering water, and squirting white bars of soap from hand to hand. Carrie stood among them stolidly, a frog among swans. She was a chunky girl with pimples on her neck and back and buttocks, her wet hair completely without color. It rested against her face with dispirited sogginess, and she simply stood, head slightly bent, letting the water splat against her flesh and roll off. She looked the part of the sacrificial goat, the constant butt, believer in left-handed monkey wrenches, perpetual foul-up, and she was. She wished forlornly and constantly that Owen High had individual and thus private showers, like the high schools at Westover or Lewiston. They stared. They always stared. Ooh, girl, I relate. And okay, so like we always had to like get changed, and like for some reason our PE teacher would get so angry at us for like going to the bathroom to change. Like it's like not hurting anybody. Like I felt so fucking uncomfortable getting changed in front of everybody. So I liked like when we went swimming, I would get changed in the bathrooms because like I didn't want anybody to like see my body. So yeah, and I think that might have been contributed to the fact that I loved Carrie so much, and I thought that her situation would happen to me. But yeah, yeah. I also figured out a way how to get changed from like my normal clothes to my PE clothes without taking anything off. It was a very methodic process, but it worked. Okay, let me go back to the last line. They stared. They always stared. Showers turning off one by one, girls stepping out, removing pastel bathing caps, toweling spray deodorant, checking the clock over the door. Bras were hooked, underpants stepped into, stern steam hung in the air. The place might have been an Egyptian bathhouse, except for the constant rumble of the jacuzzi whirlpool in the corner. Calls and catcalls rebounded with all the snap and flicker of billiard balls after a hard break. So Tommy said he hated it on me, and I'm going to my I'm going with my sister and her husband. He picks his nose, but so does she. So they're very shower after school, and too cheap to spend a gondorn pennies of Sandy and I'm trying to do different voices. Miss Desjardins, their slim, non-breasted gym teacher, stepped in, craned her neck around briefly, and slapped her hands together once, smartly. What are you waiting for, Carrie? Doom? Bell in 5 minutes. Her shorts were blinding white. Her legs were not curved, but striking in their inobtrusive muscularity. A silver whistle won in college archery competition hung around her neck. The amount of detail that he puts into this, like the imagery, like I can already imagine like the teacher with her winning her archery thing with the whistle, and like Stephen King knows how to set a scene. I am in the book. I am in the moment. Let me read that again. A silver whistle won in college archery competition hung around her neck. The girls giggled and Carrie looked up, her eyes low and dazed from the heat and the steady pounding roar of the water. Oh. It was a strangely frogly sound, grotesquely apt, and the girls giggled again. Sue Snell had whipped a towel from her hair with the speed of a magician, embarking on a wondrous feat, and began to comb rapidly. Hold on. I want to sit the ball. It's an automatic ad. Okay. Lost my place. I'm just gonna read it. Okay. The girls giggled and Carrie looked up, her eyes slow and dazed from the heat and the steady pounding roar of the water. It was a strange froggy sound, grotesquely apt, and the girls giggled again. Sue Snell had whipped a towel from her hair with the speed of a magician, embarking on a wondrous feat, and began to comb rapidly. Miss Desjardins made an irritating, cranking gesture at Carrie and stepped out. Carrie turned off the water and it died in a drip and a gurgle. It wasn't until she stepped out that they all saw the blood running down her leg. Okay, now it goes into like a different thing. From the shadow exploded, documented facts and specific conclusions derived from the case of Carrietta White by David R. Congress. Tulane University Press, 1981, page 34. So yeah, it's like a little page plus like a from the shadow. Oh, I already read that. It can hardly be disputed that failure to note specific instances of telekinesis during the white girl's earlier years must be attributed to the conclusion offered by White and Stearns in their paper Telekinesis. A vital talent revisited, but the ability to move objects by the effort of the will alone comes to the force only in moments of extreme personal stress. The talent is well Hidden, indeed. How else could it have remained submerged from centuries with only the tip of the iceberg showing above a sea of flakery? We have only skimpy hearsay evidence upon which to lay our foundation in this case. But even this is enough to indicate that a TK potential of immense magnitude existed within Carrie White. The great tragedy is that we are now all Monday morning quarterbacks. Period. It says period. But I read it as period. Period. The catcall came from Chris Hargensen. It struck the tiled walls, rebounded, and struck again. Sue Snell gasped laughter from her nose and felt an odd, vexing mixture of hate, revulsion, exasperation, and pity. She had just looked so dumb standing there, not knowing what was going on. God, you'd think she'd never. Period. It was becoming a chant, an incantation. Someone in the background, perhaps Hargensen again, Sue couldn't tell in the jungle of echoes, was yelling, "Plug it up," with hoarse, inhibited abandon. Period. 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 Carrie stood dumbly in the center of a forming circle, water rolling from her skin in beads. She stood like a patient ox, aware that the joke was on her, as always, dumbly embarrassed but unsurprised. Sue felt welling disgust as the first dark drops of menstrual blood struck the tile in dime-sized drops. "For God's sake, Carrie, you got your period," she cried. "Clean yourself up." "Oh?" She looked around benevolently. Her hair stuck to her cheek in a curving helmet shape. There was a cluster of acne on one shoulder. At 16, the elusive stamp of hurt was already marked clearly in her eyes. She thinks they're for lipstick," Ruth Gogan suddenly shouted with cryptic glee, and then burst into a shriek of laughter. She remembered the comment later and fitted it into a general picture, but now it was only another senseless sound in the confusion. 16? She was thinking. She must know what's happening. More droplets of blood. Carrie still blinked around at her classmates in a slow bewilderment. Helen Shires turned around and made mock, throwing up gestures. "You're bleeding," Sue yelled suddenly, furiously. "You're bleeding, you big dumb pudding." Who says that? Pudding? Weirdo. Carrie looked down at herself. She shrieked. The sound was very loud in a humid locker room. A tampon suddenly struck her head in the chest and fell with a plop at her feet. A red flower stained the absorbent cotton and spread. Then the laughter, disgusted, contemptuous, horrified, seemed to rise and bloom into something jagged and ugly, and the girls were bombarding her with tampons and sanitary napkins, some from purses, some from broken dispenser on the wall. They fell like snow, and the chant became, "Plug it up, plug it up, plug it up, plug it." Sue was throwing them too, throwing and chanting with the rest, not really sure what she was doing. A charm had occurred in her mind, and it glowed there like neon. "There's no harm in it, really. No harm in it, really. No harm." It was still flashing and glowing, reassuringly, when Carrie suddenly began to howl and back away, flailing her arms and grunting and gobbling. The girl stopped, realizing that the vision and explosion had finally been reached. It was at this point when looking back, that some of them would claim surprise. Yet there had been all these years of let short sheet Carrie's bed at Christian youth camp, and I found that this love letter from Carrie to flashy Bobby Pickett. Let's copy it and pass it around and hide her underpants somewhere and put the snake in her shoe and again. Duck her again. That is awful. These people are awful to Carrie. Like, give her a fucking break. I don't understand how people can be that cruel. And there was definitely some very cruel people at my school. But it's just like, why? Why are you like that? Like, what do you get from that? So weird. I'm on Carrie's side. I fucking love Carrie. Carrie tagging along stubbornly on biking trips, knowing one year as puddin' and next year as truck face, always smelling sweaty and unable to catch up, catching poison ivy from urinating in the bushes and everyone finding out. Hey, Scratch Ass, your bum itch? Billy Preston putting peanut butter in her hair that time she fell asleep in study hall. The pinches, the legs outstretched in school aisles to trip her up, the books knocked from her desk, the obscene postcard tucked in her purse. Carrie at the church picnic and kneeling down clumsily to pray at the seam of her old madras skirt, splitting along the zipper like the road of a huge wind breakage. Carrie always missing the ball, even in kickball, falling on her face in modern dance during their sophomore year and chipping a tooth, running into the net during volleyball, wearing stockings that were always running, and about to run, always showing sweat stains under arms of her blouses, even the time Chris Hargensen called up after school from the Kelly Fruit Company downtown and asked her if she knew the pig poop that was spelled Carrie. Suddenly, all this and the critical mass was reached. The ultimate shit on, gross out, put out, long searched for, and found vision. She backed away, howling in the next silence. Fat forearms crossing her face, a tampon struck in the middle of her pubic hair. This is very graphic. I'm sorry, y'all. The girls watched her, their eyes shining solemnly. Carrie backed into the side of the 4 large shower compartments and slowly collapsed into a sitting position. Slow, helpless groans jerked out of her. Her eyes rolled with a wet whiteness, like the eyes of a hog in a slaughtered pen. Sue said slowly, hesitantly, I think this must be the first time she ever. That was when the door pumped open with a flat, buried bang, and Miss Desjardins bust in to see what the matter was. Okay, y'all. It's kind of late. It says 24 minutes on here, but yeah. I will end it there. We are on page 11. Put a little bookmark. If I decide to do this again, I will see y'all again for another reading of Carrie. It probably won't be for a couple of days because I'm going to be dog sitting. But yeah, we'll see when I could read this with y'all again. Bye y'all. Hope you have a lovely, lovely night.